Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Athlete C.A.F.E.
Hi guys, I'm Carly, former collegiate lacrosse player.
I'm Abby, former collegiate dancer and gymnast.
Hi guys, I'm Francis, a former collegiate track athlete.
And I'm Emily, a former collegiate volleyball player. Let's get into today's topics and see what's on the menu. All right, we're back.
Yeah,
Hey.
How's everybody doing today?
Good.
pretty good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. How's your guys' week's been? I feel like I'm in a session.
Yeah. What's a high and a low?
Yeah.
No, it's been pretty good. Yeah.
Anything like exciting that happened, or like any big moments or anything that you felt like with one of your clients this week? I don't know.
I definitely have I've had an exciting week. This
That's
was my
good.
week of we've had some projects in the works.
Yeah,
And
you
it
have
was
had a busy week.
finally time to do them. And so it was Monday, I think Monday, Tuesday, today, and then tomorrow I have a clinic with a gymnastics facility. So it was just lots of big projects finally coming to life, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
And then lots of just good conversations with athletes this week. So
Yeah.
good week.
A lot of fun things going on at Sharpen. We're making some video series, and then we're doing the podcast today. Got some of our clinics going. It's pretty cool, all the stuff we're doing, right? It's
Yeah.
really cool. Were you going to say something, Francis?
No, it's okay.
All right. Well, today I think we all decided, as this being kind of our first, I know our first episode was a little more of our backgrounds and bios, but this episode is going to be a little more of an example or embodiment of what we really feel like our podcasts are going to look like. Yeah. So we're excited to kind of set that tone and get into our first topic, which you all kind of decided on, which was the topic of confidence.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
Big one.
Popular.
it's a big one. We could probably talk on 20 different episodes
Oh,
about
Yeah,
confidence.
and I think what we said is a lot of the other topics that we talk about all tie back into confidence.
Yep.
And
The umbrella.
yes, I
of
think that's a good way to
performance.
explain it.
So I always tell my athletes, no matter how confident you feel, whether it's, you feel like you're optimally confident, maybe a little too cocky sometimes, but confidence is always such a good thing to work on because, like we said, it's if you have a good baseline understanding of where your confidence is, that's going to help us manage our expectations, cope with our mistakes, work on our pre-performance routines. That confidence has to be there in order for anything else to kind of flow. It's kind of what do you guys agree?
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I always start there with my clients, no matter if they feel like they
Do
need
we all
it or
do
not.
that? Is that usually our first,
Yeah,
first
it's
big
like
topic, first
it's
conversation?
the building block. That's what you
yeah, like
the
that.
groundwork
Okay.
that you lay down first is that confidence.
Yeah.
Even if they because we give performance assessments, even if on the question of how confident do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10, if they're at a 9 or a 10 or an 8, I'm still we're starting with confidence,
Yep.
right? Because I think now that we've done it a lot more too with clients, I'm even learning so much more about it.
Yeah.
There are so many different aspects of confidence. It's not just are you confident or are you not confident, right? So
Yeah. No, and I think even with that, it's even if they are on a scale of 9 or 10, it's okay, so
why?
Why?
Yeah.
Where does it come from? And then it breaks down the conversation just in the same way as it is if you're not confident.
Absolutely.
So we felt like today would be a good starting point to go through confidence and just give our different perspectives and kind of share our own personal experiences with bits and pieces of confidence. Because like we said, I think we'll definitely other facets that we'll talk about at a later time.
Yeah.
But kind of start the conversation today. So I'm going to first go through just what the definition of confidence is because that sometimes gets overshadowed. But we all look to confidence and define it as this belief in your ability to execute or complete a task or a skill. So comes down to your belief in your ability. And that is sometimes the toughest hurdle and the toughest challenge. We see it every day with our athletes, and I know I experience it a lot.
So much.
As you guys did too, of do you truly believe you can do something? Because if you don't, if you have even some question or a little bit of a wavering feeling, you're not gonna be able to do it. And sometimes we don't even realize that we have that low sense of confidence or what's impacting it, and that's where we come in to kind of help people figure out what we can do to work on it and to kind of boost it in that sense. So as we could talk through confidence, I just want you guys thinking about okay, it's the belief in your ability. And I will add too of you can be super confident in one part of your game and then struggle in a different part, right? Like I always felt like as a volleyball player, I was a very confident hitter, but my serving or my serve receive sometimes was where I lacked the confidence just because I didn't feel like I was as strong in that at times. So it's like it wavered, but two vastly different parts of my game that had two vastly different levels of confidence, which is natural and normal as well. So belief in your ability to execute a skill or a task. And this can be too in, I tell my kids, like any other part of your life.
Oh my
like
gosh.
the confidence,
Right, we
it's
talk
not
in the
just
sport
sports.
context, but it translates to every area
Right.
of
Yeah.
your life.
Right.
And I think that's just what makes our job so cool is that we get to put this perspective into like kids' minds of like, okay, you can still have like the same things that you do to work on it in your sport. You can do the same thing when you have a test at school, when you're having a conversation with your best friend, when you're trying to advocate for yourself with your coach,
And
like goes across.
And I think like, because every athlete eventually gets to the point where you hang up the jersey and you're done. And so like it's so cool that you like everything that you build up like in your athletic career and like learning these skills can be applied for when you do like end up leaving your sport.
Yeah,
or
I was
retiring.
having a conversation with an athlete literally last night, and she's not playing a sport this season. She is off this season, but we're still meeting, which is such a cool thing to get to do. And she just started her first job.
Yeah.
And she's like, I feel so nervous just walking into the building of my first job.
Yeah.
And so we talked about, okay, you know, when you're walking out onto the court, what do you need to do to feel confident?
Yeah.
And it was pump up music and it was having positive body language. So we're like, okay, how does that translate to walking into your job? And she's like, I need to play pump up music in the car on the way there. And then I need to walk with my chin up and my shoulders back and just like beeline it for the door.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Put
she's
some
like,
Drake on.
yeah, right? But it was so funny. I was like, it's so interesting to talk about how like months ago we were talking about it in her sport and now it's a completely different context, but it was the same conversation. I was like, this is like a deja vu moment, but totally different context. It was cool.
Because we're humans, right?
Yes,
it's more than just our
exactly.
sport.
Big thing, and we'll get on that later about athlete identity and how to shift those roles. But okay, so I kind of want to start with a question for everybody to kind of ponder and go through the topic of confidence. But so I want us all here to kind of think through, you guys, of when you were playing, whether it was, you know, college, high school, whatever, as you were an athlete. Because I always say, I hate to say that we're not athletes anymore because we all are. Like, I'm going to be an athlete for my entire life, even if I'm just playing for fun now. Like, so I don't want to say when you were athletes, but when you were playing competitively.
We did get to see a little bit of Emily's competitive volleyball side.
A little too much. A little too much.
Darlie.
She spiked the ball into my face during a fun, friendly game of sand volleyball.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome. I don't know if it was better, Carly's reaction to getting it or Emily's reaction.
Luckily, I don't have a black eye today or
You
a
had
broken nose.
great reaction time.
It was awesome. So Emily's still an athlete. That's what I learned yesterday.
Oh, she still has that
We
hit spike.
had to show it off a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Ian just gave me such a good set. I couldn't let it go. No, but tidbit, we did just open up sand courts at Sharp and Skills Training in Brunswick, Ohio, in Cleveland as well. So if you are local to us, sign up for a sand league. Sign up a team.
Emily, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, same.
Anyway, so when you guys were, when we were all playing, when you were in your competitive days, what is something, well, no, I'll save that question for later. What do you guys feel like is, when you talk to your athletes, okay, what do you feel like is the most important, or what do you tend to lean on the topic of confidence? Like, what do you feel most confident talking about? What do you feel is most important when you talk to your athletes about confidence?
I guess I can go first because
Sure.
Immediately the first thing that comes to mind is visualization.
Your
Yeah.
favorite.
I love
We
it.
all have our
Visualization.
thing, and that's yours.
That's okay.
Yes, and I feel like with a lot of my athletes that I talk to, like that's the thing that they always like take the most from, and
awesome.
they always like think back and they're like, oh yeah, that visualization, like that was so
That
good.
sticks
like,
out
I
to
used-
them.
Yeah, and so just explaining a little bit about visualization and mental imagery. It's creating those images in your mind before you kind of get into your games or meet competitions, whatever it is. But there's so many different techniques to it.
Yeah.
I think most people think of it as building confidence. So picturing yourself having like that positive success in your sport and picturing yourself doing that really cool skill and you do it perfectly and everything just aligns, and like the more you use that visualization, it builds that confidence going in. But there's so many other like different techniques to it, because you can also use it to help prepare for mistakes and like other things that happen in your competition, and you can use it to help relax, like if you have performance anxiety or anything like that. Like there's so many different ways that you can use it, and so I feel like that's the biggest topic that I talk about with my athletes, because there's always like one part of it that just really sticks with them.
I like that idea of, and I usually approach it a little bit different that I'll talk about in a minute, but I think it's interesting that you do that first, because like Emily was saying, the definition is your belief in your ability to do it.
Create
and if
that narrative.
You can't even see your self doing it in your head,
you're
never going to believe it. Or it's never is probably a strong word, but it's very challenging to believe that you can do it. So that's such a great...
and like what it does like too is it just like helps create that memory of like in your mind of like, I could be confident in this moment. And like the more you just like build that in your head...
what is it? If the saying's like, if you can see it, you can believe it, or whatever it is. And I think that's a perfect example of that.
But I feel like the part that I just never knew until I started this job and just have gained all this knowledge is like visualizing the errors, visualizing the bad things, like being prepared and honestly seeing like how you'll react in those moments, and the idea of like performance anxiety, like just you feeling prepared for something will reduce that anxiety like in itself. So I think that was one of the biggest things where I was like, whoa, like light bulb moment for me. Like it isn't just all the great things in the world, you know, that you're visualizing. So cool.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too with that. My favorite part of it is like we think so much, and athletes are so used to physically practicing, and all of these mental skills require mental practice, obviously. But like in doing visualization, you're literally tricking your brain, because you're seeing it happen, and your brain takes that as okay, that's practice. Like your body will start to do it from just thinking it.
And you can
it's crazy.
And like, oh my gosh, there's so much. Like,
you're so passionate. We can feel the passion.
She just like gets so excited about
but, like,
it.
There's so much research on how like mentally practicing a skill like actually changes the way your brain functions.
Yes.
So you can do it physically.
Yes.
And like, and I think that's really cool with athletes who are injured too. Like they can mentally practice their skills. So when they get to it, they in their head they know what it's supposed to feel like in their body, and so like
that
when they get back to
I
it,
wish I knew. I wish I had known that, and I just
you think you're out, but you can be sitting there, and whether it's like even watching your teammates and like pretending and embodying them and what they're doing, but like taking the time to visualize,
so that you
practice.
You believe that you actually have the ability to do this, because your brain is seeing.
Because your brain is
a picture of yourself actually doing it,
and your brain doesn't tell the difference between like what's real and what's just going on in your head. So like just putting it in your head, like it create like your whole body feels like it's a real thing happening, and so it, like picturing all of those like handling mistakes and that pressure side of things, like it brings up the emotional side of it as well, like when you visualize it. So if you can practice visualizing that pressure situation, you're more comfortable with those emotions that come up with it. So when it actually happens in your game or in your competition, it's not like a shock to your system. Right? Because you've already like practiced what that would feel like in that moment. And so you've practiced how you can move past it, what you ideally want to do in that.
So for an athlete that has a hard time picturing it, what's the first step that you have them take? Is it watching videos? Is it looking at pictures? Is it watching their teammates? For somebody that's trying visualization for the first time, like what?
That's hard.
It's
like,
so hard. I have a really hard time with it, to be
Same.
honest with you.
And I've had somebody tell me that they actually visualize like in third person, which I've never
See,
heard
that's
of.
first
my
person
default.
and third
Like
person.
that aerial view, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like they watch themselves
themselves
do it
from the
rather than like
That's like
being
a
in the moment
trippy
of it.
thing.
I would say I always did the third person, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that comes from dance and gymnastics, where I'm seeing it from the judge's perspective. The judges are sitting on the side or in front of me, and like I can still picture myself doing a beam routine, but I can't like I can't see myself on the beam.
Right.
I can only see myself from the side. So
Yeah.
for an athlete that's trying this for the first time, like what do you have them do?
I think ideally you'd want to picture in first person, just because you're putting yourself in that situation rather than watching yourself in that situation. I've actually never done third person visualizing, so I'm not sure how, like, if it actually does bring up like that emotional side of it, if you're just watching someone,
That's true.
watching
Okay,
yourself do it.
interesting.
Well, I think that like goes to the point of like all of our brains are
Yes,
so different.
right?
Like
And
we
so this
have
might
different
be
images.
what works for you.
Yeah.
There's some people that like can only do third person visualization, and if it works for you, cool, like that's awesome. But I think like my biggest tip to like when you first get started like with visualizing is it kind of ties into like mindfulness meditation, but there's a lot of recordings out there and like YouTube videos that like talk you through visualizing. And so just like finding a space that's quiet, relaxing, being able to calm your mind and your body first so that you're relaxed. A lot of times people say that they kind of fall asleep during that, but that
that's
actually
good.
helps because
Yeah,
like in like dreaming it as well. Like if you do fall asleep in your dreams, that's visualization. But so like getting in a relaxing setting is like the first step, and then having like either someone's talking to you or like you know what you want to like
What the
visualize,
steps
yeah,
are.
what the steps are, but just like walking yourself through every little thing in your competition. So like the bus ride to the meet, to the game, when you get there, what does your warm up look like? Who are you warming up with? Like, what's the conversation
it
going
sound
on?
like?
Yeah, what
Yeah.
like and
Using
bringing
those
in all of
senses.
those like sensory things. Like, what do you hear, smell, feel, see? All of that. And the more you can kind of bring in those senses, it helps you like really build the picture that you're trying to create. And then just like with my track kids, like just actually running your race in your head.
Yeah.
Like the gun goes off, you're going around the turn, like
Yep.
whatever race you're doing, but like you want to walk yourself through every step of it, and like take in all of those like senses that go on.
I will say though, like something I make sure to tell my athletes is don't put pressure on yourself. Don't judge yourself. Like if it doesn't come naturally, if you like in my brain, it's black and white. It's not detailed. It's very like bland. And some people have very vivid images in their brain, right?
Yeah.
So
The
like,
artist over
yes,
here.
exactly.
Yes.
So I think just making sure that they're like, oh my God, well, should it be looking a certain way? Like, no, it's however you view it. So.
But I will say, kind of building off of that, so maybe this is turning more into a visualization podcast today. Yeah, I love it. But I think, like, for me, building off of that, like, when I talk about confidence with my kids, is like, I love building the awareness. And that to me is the biggest thing that I try to stress in anything that I do, is just like, do you even realize what you're doing?
Yeah.
Do you even realize what you're thinking about? Like when I tell kids to tell me their like pre-race or pre-performance routine, they're like, oh, I just get on the bus and then I get there, we warm up, and then I'm ready to go. And I'm like, there are so many other things you're doing that you don't even think about, right? Or you're not giving that thought to. So it's even like when we talk about confidence, like what makes you feel confident? What do you even think about? Like what could be affecting your confidence? Do you think about who's in the stands and what they're thinking about how you're performing? There's so many pieces of awareness that kids at a 13, 14, 15-year-old age like just truly haven't thought of, and that's okay. But my biggest thing is I feel like I really try and just build that awareness. Why do you feel like this? How can we possibly change it? How do you even want to change it? You know, thinking about how we can become more aware of our emotions and feelings and why it's being created that way, why we're building this narrative of I can't do it or I don't want to do it or however, you know? So I think with visualization, there's a big piece of just that awareness that comes in. So I think that's what I tend to focus on.
That's
with
awesome.
that.
And I think something that I know Abby says a lot, but like a lot of with that building awareness, like we know like what our warm up is and all of those like little details, but like doing it on purpose and like actually thinking
the
about
why.
The why.
all of that.
But like combining those, I think that touches perfectly on the thing that I hone in on the most with my athletes is like this idea of the two aspects of confidence, which is like proactive and stable, right? So kind of talking about each one, visualization is a perfect example of the proactive confidence,
Yes.
right? So just like the name says, being proactive and really being intentional about like building your confidence up or making sure that you're doing things that help build your confidence up or that are a source of confidence for you that I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more. But I think that that is so important. You know, I have like a whole list of 10 things that I share with lacrosse players specifically, but it can relate to literally any sport of like, okay, write a list of your 10, you know, best qualities in lacrosse. Like that is an example of proactive confidence, like doing that before the game starts. So I like that idea. And then the other piece to that would be like the stable confidence. So, and I think we all kind of like describe it a little bit differently, but in a general sense, it's like really just trying to maintain an even or like stable level of confidence. There we go. So not letting like a bad call or a mistake or your coach yelling at you or a ref, you know, calling a bad call, let your confidence dip really low and not really letting it get too high either. Just really trying to maintain like and figure out what does confidence feel like to me? And it's going to look different for you. It's going to look different for you and you. But like for me, what is my definition? What does it feel like? And what do I do personally to make myself feel confident? Just confident at the stable level. So
yeah, and we know what. I mean, it's very easy to know what dips our confidence, right? I mean, those things
are confidence killers.
Confidence killers stick out like a sore thumb. But it's like, okay, using that proactive confidence to be able to build it back up and know what we need and how to do that, like internally, just yourself, how to self-evaluate and self-assess, build that awareness,
control the things you can control, right?
Yes.
Like,
That's it.
yes, positive comments from your coach and your teammates are great. I love that builds your confidence up, but do they give those to you every single time before a game? Do they ever give them to you, right? Like, give them to yourself.
Yes.
So,
but yeah, I love the idea of stable and proactive confidence. We talk about proactive confidence all the time.
I know.
You guys listening here right now are being proactive with your
Yes.
confidence.
And I think
so
that's
true.
a really important part, that there's so many ways to build confidence.
Yes.
And I think that's actually, segue, perfect into what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't have to take a perfect performance to build confidence, right? And somebody, I can't remember who it was, kind of explained it to me one time of like, it's that question of what came first, the chicken or the egg? Like, does the confidence come first to have a good performance, or do you need a good performance to have confidence?
Like, that's $1 million question.
Yeah.
Right?
If we could, and I think, there's a lot of it is that the confidence comes first, right? That is kind of the thing. And my favorite part about confidence is that it does not have to be a yes or no question. It is not, yes, I am confident, or no, I am not confident. I always like to explain confidence as more of like a sliding scale, and that, for our stable confidence, we kind of want it to hover in the middle. So we have like our side of, I am not confident at all, and our other side of, I am 100% confident in what I'm about to do. And so your stable confidence is kind of getting you, in the middle of, you feel good. You know that you can achieve the task. You believe that you can achieve the task that you're setting out to do, whatever sport or specific skill that might be. And then when it starts to go up or down, right? It's not, yes, I'm confident, or no, I'm not, but I might be a little bit lower confidence today.
How can I
In
adjust
certain
that?
skills,
In certain skills,
days.
right? And, I think back to gymnastics, that I was a strong beam worker. It is an event that I did very well on. I was very afraid of it, to be very honest. I hated every second of competing it. I hated it. I truly hated it. And my coaches will tell you, I cried the whole time. I cried the whole time. And if you cried, you did push-ups, and I would just do the push-ups. Like, I just knew it. And so it was, but there were some things that I did feel really confident in. And I think pulling from my dance experience, I was great at turns and leaps. And the actual physical artistry of my beam routine, I was great on. But some more of my like acro skills, so my handstands, cartwheels, back handsprings, all of that, no confidence, right? So when I was thinking of beam, it was a really hard yes or no question of, do you feel confident, yes or no? It was, well, I feel confident in these skills, but I do not feel confident in these other skills. And so, one of the big things, kind of proactive confidence and trying to find that more stable confidence when it does dip a little bit is trying to figure out what are those things that I do feel confident in.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are my sources of confidence right now that are
Right.
going to help bring me back up the sliding scale a little bit or just return me to my more stable confidence? And there's tons of them.
Yes.
And it can be such
Anything.
a variety of things. And I know Carly mentioned, you know, those positive comments from your coaches and teammates. And that works, right? When my coach was like, dude, you're killing it.
Right.
Or my teammates were like, oh my gosh, that was the best back walkover I've ever seen you do. Like, that did help. That did help. And I think there is a part that you can't control it. That's hard because there are some days my coaches were just not going to give it to me. They just weren't.
Well, I think that's a big, with that one specifically, like I have so many kids that are like, oh yeah, my coach told me I had a great game, but like, ugh, I just know I didn't do this well. And I'm like, okay, let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Right.
Your coach isn't saying that just to say it. Like
Right.
I think that's a big thing that athletes today need to learn a lot of is like, people give you those comments because they truly mean
deserve
it.
that.
They don't have to tell you anything.
No,
so
they
it's
do
like
not.
really being able to step out of your own mindset and be able to say, okay, I'm seeing it one way. They saw it a different way. I'm going to use that as a source of confidence for me today.
I would say from a coach, yes, nothing was worse than when you have the worst game of your life and you go off the field and a parent's like, great game. And you're like,
Right.
I literally did
I
either
did
didn't play or
horrible.
I did horrible. Like that was the worst.
Right.
But yes,
Yes, I agree
Yeah.
as an athlete. And that's like, again, this stuff is so difficult to work through.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
changing the mindset and like taking the things that we're telling you, it's easier said than done for sure.
And that's why
Rewiring your brain.
it
It just takes a
Have
lot
to
of practice.
practice. Right, just
So.
like you do anything else. But yeah, I mean, like what source of confidence do we talk about all the time? Past success in your sport, positive comments from others, your practice and training,
Immediate performance.
your immediate performance, your nutrition.
Your like pre-routine.
Yep.
That's something that like I've had a couple of my athletes say that like they're like what they eat the
Yes.
night before or the day of their game or competition, like that actually makes them feel good when
Yes.
they get to the games. And so like that pre-routine is a huge part of it too.
For
And that's
sure.
something that for the most part is like in your control. You can
Yes.
control how much sleep you get, what you eat in the morning, like
Yeah.
your warm up for the most part, like all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that talk too about just what's in your control.
Yeah.
Like there are so many sources of confidence that are outside of our control, but being able to pick a few that we have the control of, because that's truly what's going to make the biggest difference, I
Well,
think.
the thing I laugh at with that conversation is like, yes, there are definitely some that are 100%, I can either control this or not, but there are also aspects of it that you can, right? So like immediate performance, I always laugh at because when I ask my athletes, like, can you control your immediate performance? Some of them are like, yeah, but no, like, yes, like I can go out there and try hard and like work hard, but like that doesn't mean I'm going to automatically perform the way I want to be performing, right? So like it's just finding the things about it that you can control. So maybe not
Right.
blatantly, like, can you control your the night before your pregame routine? Like, yes, but like maybe you had a really rough night's sleep the night before and like
Right,
there's nothing
yeah.
on you for, you know what I mean? Like you went to
Yeah.
bed at the right time, you couldn't sleep.
Maybe
or,
your
like,
little
like your-
sister was screaming all
Exactly,
night.
yeah.
Sleep,
Yes,
like-
there's
even,
so many.
even like that warm up side of it too. Like okay, like maybe your coach like gives you a set warm up, and
Yeah.
so like it's not super in your control,
Yeah.
but
It's how you perceive
And I
that
think-
setup, warm up, and how it impacts you.
Right. And so that's why I think it's also great to have a list of what things can give me confidence, what
Yes.
can be my sources of confidence. And maybe it is normally my, pregame routine or the night before. That's not an option to give me confidence this time, so I can't hone in on that one. So what else do I need to do? Is it I need to ask my teammate, be like, I need a pep talk.
Yeah.
Like, and I guarantee
Communicate.
if you ask your teammates for a pep talk, they're going to give it to you.
Advocate
Right?
for yourself.
Advocate for yourself. And that will be a never ending conversation that we
gosh.
have on these episodes. But, right, if your pre performance routine can't go the way you need it to give you confidence, that's fine, right? We can't control that part of it. So, what we can control switching our focus to a different source of confidence. Yeah. Maybe it's, for me, I loved my leotards that I competed in. When I put on my uniform, even if I put on my warm-up jacket, like all of a sudden I was like,
Feel good.
there
Look
was
good,
a
feel good.
different
good, feel
like
good.
aura
Yes.
that came over me. So there were some times where I was feeling really nervous before a meet, and it was hours before I needed to compete, but I would just put my warm-up jacket on because it started to get me into that, like, okay, I know I feel good when I have this on. I know that I have this
Yeah.
level of confidence, so I'm going to I'm going to hone in on that one right now. And just making a list of those different things. And then, okay, these ones are not working for me today. How can I shift that a little bit so that I'm bringing I was a little bit lower in confidence because I can't control those things. So I need to be a little proactive about it to get back to my normal baseline level and just being able to switch gears.
Yeah, it all comes down to being proactive.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
the
like not
biggest thing.
panicking when you're not,
Yes.
you know what I
When
mean?
something
Like
doesn't
we're
go.
going to have days when you're not confident. Like even just
Yes.
now that we aren't really active in our sports, like sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel great about myself today. You know what I mean? Like,
it's gonna
so
happen.
I'm going to do my hair and do my makeup today because I know that will make me feel better. You know what I mean? Just, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all those days are going to be different for sure. But I think that's the biggest thing, like figure out building that awareness. What makes you feel confident? What are things that you know you can focus on source-wise to help boost that when you need it? So that way you've worked on it ahead of time. When you're in your game and you're in your performance and you're like, oh shoot, like I can think, okay, I just need to think about that last kill I just had and use my immediate performance as that confidence boost.
Yeah.
I've even told athletes, make a physical list.
Yeah.
Put it in your bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Put it.
In the notes
I've
app
even
on your
had one
phone.
Yeah.
athlete, they had this like sticker maker or they whatever, they taped it to their water bottle.
Oh,
Because they're like, I don't always have my phone on me and I don't always have my gym bag on me.
Yeah.
But
I
if I
love
put it
that.
on my water bottle, I always know.
Like a cricket, like that
That's
type of
fancy.
situation. We need one.
I tell people, I'm like, just put some tape on there. That's
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
better.
Right?
That's
But-
the old school way.
Yeah, the old school way. But right, even being able to, you always are going to get a water break, right? Even, I mean, in a
something to
gymnastics
look.
meet, there are some times where you are like, you just finished one routine, you saluted to the judge, and like all of a sudden you're up on the next event, you are getting ready to go. Like you have to start warm up for the next event. It just is. Or other times you have like literally 45 minutes, and that is almost worse, to be honest. But you always have time to go get water. No coach is ever going to say you don't have time to go get a drink, right? So taking that moment to say like, okay, I'm in a quick transition, or that routine did not go well, or all of a sudden things are delayed, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, things will
looking at
throw
that
you
list
off.
and say, what are my two? I need two sources of confidence right now. They might be different than what they were. And then I might get up on the equipment and that's not working. So I got to figure something else out. But having that list in front of you can be such a powerful tool.
Yeah, I've had some of my athletes actually like make index cards with their positive self-talk statements.
Another
You love-
one.
yeah,
That's another
Yes,
one.
and like that's
How can
something
we
that you
forget?
can have in your game bag.
Yeah.
And like like for those people who just need that visual of like
Yeah.
I need to say something positive to myself. I can't think of it off the top of my head because whatever just happened really sucked.
Yeah.
And so you just pull out like a couple index cards.
love
and
that.
Yeah.
Just literally read a script.
Yeah.
You know,
I really love
like
that.
my brain needs to say this right now
focus on
and
that.
have that.
I always ask my athletes, I'm like, would your coach or teammates or like your parents say what you say to yourself, to you? Like, and if the answer is no, you should absolutely never be saying that to yourself as much as possible, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we all get down on ourselves. I get that. But I think like you need to be your biggest fan. Like, and if
Yeah.
you're not,
Absolutely.
that's something you actively need to work on. And of course, like we just said, like it is such a big piece to confidence. Like if you are talking to yourself in a mean way, your confidence level is not going to be
Right.
either stable in the middle or high at all,
Yeah.
right? Like
Right.
I suck. I can't believe I just did that. Like all of those things, like we said before, like the way you talk to yourself and the way you think literally affects your physical performance and the way
Yes.
you move.
And
So,
having those like positive self-talk statements, like when you're working on it, it feels silly at first because your knee-jerk reaction is to be negative, like
Right.
because you're trying to assess.
Because that's what all athletes do. We just think that's
That's what all
normal.
human beings
right.
do.
Well,
and I think it's like affirmations, right? Like positive self-talk and affirmations are pretty similar, I would
Right.
say. And like I'll say, look yourself in the mirror and say it to yourself, like
And
every
it's
morning.
uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. It's weird.
But like the more you get into the habit of feeding yourself something positive, it like filters your brain to like start picking out those positive things.
Yep. And I think,
manifesting.
there are some of these things that we talk about, right? Like, will it feel silly maybe to have some index cards?
Right.
Probably.
Yeah.
Is it going to
No
be
one else
weird
is
if
probably
everybody's
doing
like,
that.
why the heck do you have random pieces of tape on your water bottle that are that have random, sources of confidence? Like, what the heck is that? But like, who cares?
Yeah.
If it works
If
for
it
you,
works for you,
do
That's
it. And
all
here's
that
the thing.
matters.
I would bet money that if all of a sudden you have index cards and then you go and have an awesome performance, nobody's going to be laughing.
And who's
They're
going to
all
have
gonna
index
want
cards
that.
the
Right,
next
and who
day?
Right,
do you
yeah.
think is going to have
Who's
index
gonna come
cards
back
the
the
next
next
game
time?
and be like, so what are you writing down?
Yeah.
Well, and how many of you guys had like a drill or something you guys did physically at practice that you're like, this feels weird, or this is awkward, or this is
Yes. The
embarrassing?
entire
like,
sport of
it's all the
gymnastics.
same thing, right? So why is working on your mental game like, you know,
Because it's-
sometimes embarrassing?
Right, and
different and new.
everybody wants to go to strength and conditioning coaches. Everybody is doing, you know,
Something physical.
the cupping, and everybody is working on all of this, right? And it's so normal now. But I remember the first time I heard of an athlete like, oh yeah, I go to a personal trainer. I was like, why? Like, that's weird. Like, why do you need to
You're
do
already
that?
in
We work out at
practice.
practice, like whatever. So be the one to do it different, because as soon as you see the results, and you will if you practice and put in the work,
Put in the
they're going to
effort.
be like, what the heck are you doing that's making you?
Right.
I mean, you just heard a story of an athlete who the mom was like, I want my daughter to be like her.
Oh my
Like, what is
gosh. Yeah.
she doing to be able
Yeah.
to have this confidence out on the field?
That was a crazy moment. That was the first moment where I was like, okay, people are seeing the work
and then
that this
asking, what is
athlete
this
is
athlete doing? And
Yeah.
it'd be cool.
It's cool.
Like, you can make a big difference on your team.
Yeah, and I will say, like, that does speak not really to me, but really to the athlete, and how, like, specifically this athlete is just so intentional. Like, we talk about things, and she is the first person that's going to go and try it and be intentional and really work hard on
Regardless
improving.
of how
Yeah.
silly it might feel.
Yeah.
How much
so-
time it might take too. I mean, this is not going to happen overnight. Nothing
No.
happens overnight. I mean, if you're trying to PR or you're trying to like max squat, like that's going to take months.
You work 4 years to run
All
4
the stuff.
seconds.
Yeah.
Right?
Gosh. Yeah. So no, I love this, guys. Like, this is awesome. I think all those insights hit that nail on the head for just a lot of the initial things we touch on. I think one last thing that I kind of want to go through is just like go around and say, what is one thing as an athlete when you were in your high level competitiveness? What do you wish you would have like? What do you think is the biggest thing you would have taken away from having someone talk to you about confidence? Like, what do you wish you would have known that you know now that would have helped you the most?
I can start. I would say, like you guys said, I love self-talk. I think like that is definitely super important. And then kind of like branching off of that, which we will get into way deeper, I'm sure, in another podcast, but is just the way your belief system or the way your beliefs kind of affect your emotions and the way you view things, I guess, if that makes sense. So like for me in lacrosse, like if I were to go out on the field and I get in there and I drop the first pass that's past me, my confidence level is automatically shot after that. But if I would have taken the second to be like, okay, Carly, you just got in, you're like, you were cold on the sidelines. Like, this was the first pass given to you. Like, it is okay that I did that. I don't think my confidence level really would have been affected too much. I would have been like, I got the next one, right? Like, it's just the way you view whatever is happening in your life in positive or negative ways that's going to affect you mentally and then ultimately physically. So
What's your like phrase? You have like a catch line for that, I feel like.
I do?
Like facts versus reality.
That is stick to the facts.
Stick to the
That is like my
facts.
go-to. Like, stick to the facts of every situation. Like, the situation is you drop the ball, okay? Who
did every
cares?
other player on that
right?
field,
Like,
yeah.
what is the lacrosse game? What is, we always say that, like, what are, we'll get into mistakes definitely at a different time, but like, you're going to make a mistake. That is ultimately going to happen. And if you just accept it for what it is, a mistake, the fact of the situation, your emotion and your belief surrounding it
And
is
if
going to be
you can
completely
say
different.
something nice to yourself after,
Yeah.
you
You
have
got
an
it, girl,
advantage
right?
of every other
Yeah.
player on that field, because there's not a lot of other players that are going to be saying a nice thing to themselves after that, and that'll set you apart.
And it doesn't even have to always be like something like fluffy positive.
No,
Yeah,
I love this
that's
line.
an important
It
thing
can
to
be
point out.
something like productive. Like
Yes.
if you like drop the ball, your next thought like could be something productive of like, okay, I need to get back on defense, or I need to like
attack. Like, even just
Right.
one word. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
novel narrative to
Yeah,
yourself.
but
right?
it could be like specific to like, what do you need to do next in this moment?
Yeah.
for sure.
I do think that's a big misconception about self-talk is like, you drop a ball, you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm such a great athlete. Let's keep going. Like, I mean, that'll work for some people, but like a reality of, especially like athletes that are so intense and so drawn into their sport, like, it is okay to be a little realistic. Like, again, not negative by any means, but there's different ways to do it that isn't just fluffy.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And I think that really hones in for male athletes like that I've worked
Oh, yeah.
with. Like, you don't have to be, you know, this ultra like positive, you know, like fluffy. I just love
I think
that
that's
word,
such a
positive
good
way
word
to
for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really, it can be direct, straight to the point, and pretty like neutral, you know, as long as you aren't pulling
Even if it's
yourself
just
down.
like, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
good. That is
simply.
good.
That's
Yep.
enough.
right? Like,
Yeah.
you're good.
Well, good. Thanks,
That's
Carly.
awesome. I like that answer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I feel like just going back to visualization, it's something that I did in college without really knowing what it was. So I feel like I couldn't pull all the benefits.
You could have gotten more from what you were
Could've
already
gotten
doing.
more from it. Yeah.
I'm really glad we're on this podcast then, because I'm sure there's athletes like you, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because because I would always like visualize my race and like that whole positive side of things, but like I wish I just knew like more about it, and like I could use visualization to relax when I would get anxious just stepping
And
on
then
the
you could
track.
be confident in your ability to be relaxed when you're
Yes.
feeling
Right.
nervous, right? There's so many different
Right.
ways to be confident and confident in your ability to handle a mistake.
Yes,
And knowing that you could have added that
and
piece to it.
Yeah, and I could have visualized if I get boxed in and like halfway through my 800.
What's
and
boxed in? I'm thinking of like a defensive move, but you ran, so I don't know what that means.
It's when like more with the distance events, when everyone kind of like comes in into lane one, you get boxed in if you're like right on the rail and everybody's just like
Okay,
a-
so you
like
can't
your
like
own
go
lane.
so
and
you can't,
separate
yeah,
yourself.
You can't
Okay,
you can't pass people, and so
learn
they
something
just,
new every day.
Yeah. But that's like arguably like one of the worst places to be in, because you can't make a move. You like
if
everyone
you-
else around you is setting what you're running. Even if you can go like faster, you're just stuck.
You just logistically, yeah. that
And
makes
so like
sense.
I wish I could have used like visualization, like to, okay, if I'm boxed in, like
how do I maneuver?
how do
I get out
I
of
move
this?
around it? Yeah. But just like learning more about that, and I think again just the positive self-talk, like that would have been, it's such a knee-jerk reaction to be negative, and so like just actually being intentional on like speaking to myself kindly would have been done wonders, honestly.
Yeah, and I can kind of jump off of that. I feel like my biggest thing with confidence was just like the intentional proactive. Like I feel like, yes, there's a big piece to being in the moment and to like being where you are, but I just feel like there were so many things I was just like, well, I gotta go to 6 a.m. lift today. I freaking hate it. But like, what could I if I would have taken a step back, and again I had to choose to do that, but I feel like I could have just changed my experience in more of a positive way in general, but like I could have also just taken that time to be like, all right, so at this 6 a.m. practice, what can I do to like make myself better? Like what can I focus on to feel like I'm making myself better? What things can I tap into? And I just feel like I didn't do that because I was so caught up in like the negativity. So
Yeah,
again, self-talk and some of that, right? But I think for me, it just, again, awareness is kind of my thing today, but just having that awareness and being more intentional with how I could
do it on
control my
purpose.
situation, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because the practice times, what my coach wanted me to do, what my teammates were doing,
Couldn't change it.
no control, but
Yeah.
I could obviously control my responses. And I don't think I did a very good enough job of that.
I'd agree with
So
that.
that was kind of mine.
I think for me, the biggest thing, and it took me, a long time to realize that I felt this way, and I don't even really know when I kind of came to the conclusion, is like, I was a high level athlete in dance and gymnastics. Dance, I did succeed a lot when I was able to compete it, but I didn't know that I deserved to feel confident. I always
Deep,
thought like,
interesting.
okay, so when I was a level 6, I used to say, when I'm a level 7,
Which, can we pause?
Yes.
What are the what does it go to?
that's actually a really good question.
I don't know.
Gymnastics is a lot, and it's even changed a little bit since I was doing it, which just kind of goes to show how old I am in this sport. And I mean, when I'm 27, almost 28, and there's other than one gymnast, Chelsea Memel, who kind of came back after some time off, like you're long done by the time you're 20.
Yeah.
Adult gymnastics is a thing now, and like I just love the idea of that. But so there's compulsory gymnastics, which is levels, even level 1. There's not a lot of athletes that compete level 1, but compulsories goes up through level 5. So level 1 through level 5, and that is where athletes are competing the same exact routines, the same exact skills, to the same music and everything. So those are like preset routines for you. This music changes like every 8 years or whatever it is, but it's the same routine. So you go to the meets and you hear the same floor music.
Everybody's doing the same. Okay.
My dad can still sing my level 4 music.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. He's like, it is like a trigger for me when I hear that floor music, and it's just so funny. And every coach will tell you the same thing. So compulsories is, you know, level 1 through 5, and then you have optionals, which is level 6 through 10. Okay. So it goes up to level 10. And once you get to level 6, that's where you get your own floor music and you get your own choreography, and you have a little more flexibility in the skills that you're doing. So there's that. And then there's also this other program, the Excel program, which is, to be honest, a hotly debated topic. There are some gyms that love the Excel program. There's other gyms that do not love the Excel program. I will die on the hill that I think the Excel gymnastics is the best thing to happen to the sport of gymnastics. I love it. It is something that allows kids to do other sports and also compete gymnastics. It has much more variety on what skills you can compete. There's, you know, you have to fulfill these requirements, but how you fulfill those is up to you. Yeah. So it is allowing athletes to pull on their strengths and, you know, manage their weaknesses or manage mental blocks until they're able to overcome it. Cool. And that is a topic that I could literally go on. I could have my own podcast just about why I think Excel gymnastics is great, and it's not everybody's opinion, and that's okay. So there's that, and then there's elite gymnastics, which is, you know, the Olympics kind of level gymnastics, and then there's also college gymnastics. And it used to be you either did elite or college. There was not a lot of crossover, if any. And now we're seeing a lot of athletes do both. Or, you know, they compete in their college seasons, and now, you know, we have Paris 24 coming up, and we've got some athletes saying, hey, I'm going to take a step back from collegiate gymnastics, and then Paris, here I come, and it's really freaking cool. And I think a lot of it has to go to, we're just keeping athletes healthier. Yeah. We're keeping athletes' bodies, you know, physically and mentally, we're keeping them a lot healthier, and so they're able to kind of take the sport a little bit farther, which is really cool. It's very exciting. I think we're at a very pivotal point in the sport of gymnastics. So, but yeah, so when it came to my gymnastics career, I was good. I was good, and, you know, I was progressing my way through the levels, but I always said, confidence isn't a problem for me yet because I'm not advanced enough, right? Like, I don't deserve confidence until I'm one of the big kids, or I don't deserve confidence until I can do this skill. Then I'll be confident, or then confidence is even a question in my world.
Do you feel like the sport of gymnastics made your mindset that way, or was that more of a personal thing?
I think it was more of a personal thing. I think I always had the conversations, and I will never forget one of the very first athletes that I worked with kind of in this role, when they said, we were kind of talking about, why don't you feel confident? Like, why do you feel like you have to act this way when you make mistakes? Or why do you feel like you can't do certain things? And I will never forget, he just said it so casually and was so much, you know, he was so genuine about it. He just says, well, that's how I see my role models acting. He goes, I see all the people on TV, when they make a mistake or they're not playing well, you can tell they don't feel confident. He's like, I thought that is just what athletics was. Wow. And I was like, I'm a coach, he's 13. I was like, okay, I gotta go. Like, you are better at this than I am. And it just was such like an eye-opening moment. I think that maybe is when I kind of figured it out, is that I saw all the commentators in gymnastics. I'm a big NFL person. Everything is, look how poorly they're playing. Right. Look at all the things, and look, you can tell that they're nervous, like
or emotional, or like all those things.
And those were the things that I saw myself doing. Yeah. And I think a little bit was I was modeling the behavior of these other people, but I also just, nobody ever said like, hey, you can be confident. Like, you're allowed to feel confident. You're allowed to feel good about yourself. And it just was such an eye-opening moment that, like, as athletics as a whole focuses more on lack of confidence than on confidence. We always talk about the athletes that are not making the cut, the athletes that aren't getting the playing time, or they were supposed to start and now they're not, right? We focus on that versus, hey, they're not starting, and look at how great they're still doing. Right. Look at the progress that they're still making. They're still being a great teammate. And there's a couple of, you know, big names in the world of, you know, all sports right now that kind of have that. And I will always, you know, you'll learn that I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. I love them. Go Birds. But they talk about Jalen Hurts. You know, he was taken out. He was taken out of the championship game, and he did it with a smile on his face. And, I mean, look at him now, right? He's killing it. And it's just, I don't think that was taught to me. I don't think I was told, like, hey, you're allowed to be confident even when you're not doing really well.
Well, and I think the flip side of that, though, that I know a lot of the teams that we've worked with have said is, I don't want to be cocky.
Yeah.
Like they're almost like, if I
Worried
show
about it.
that I'm confident, if I show that like whatever
Comes
this
off
looks
as
like,
cocky.
I'm cocky,
Yeah.
right? And
I
I'm like,
think there's a difference, and somebody recently kind of had this. There's arrogance, and then there's cockiness. Like arrogance, you haven't earned it. Confidence, like you've earned the right to feel confident.
That's what I tell my kids. I say, you know, you had a great game. If someone comes up to you and says, hey, like you did a great job, and you say thank you, like I did play really well.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not cocky. That's not, you're being confident, because I said, do you feel like you deserve to play well?
Right.
And they're like, yeah. I was like, how much work do you put in? How much time and effort and energy do you put into your sport that you deserve to play well? And they're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, so tell people.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
walking around saying, I'm better than you, you suck, I'm
That's
the
the
best? Like,
difference.
very
is-
different, right?
Yes.
But like saying, I had a good game. Like,
Yeah.
when's the last
You
time
can
you've
be
heard an athlete
confident
say
without
that?
putting other people down in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
But something that like you kind of touched on with that of like, I'll be confident when I get to that next level. So I don't know if it's something with like more of that individual kind of sport, but oh my gosh,
Interesting.
that
I don't know if I ever
relate
thought
to
of it
that
that way.
so much, and like maybe you guys can kind of speak on how it goes to team sports, but like especially in track, it's like I can't celebrate that I just had a PR because now I'm looking at the next thing. It's
Because
like,
now I can go
okay, well,
faster.
now I need to go faster. And like next time I can drop my time a little bit more. But like I'll never celebrate that I just ran the fastest time I've ever run, because now I'm already looking at like, okay, well, now I have to do this. And like now I have to.
I think that's just like the athlete mindset. And honestly, like even now that we're all in like more of a work type life, like you're just always looking to the next thing, and that's fine. Like that's what you need to do to grow. And like, of course you PR, like, yeah, of course you want to go faster now because I know I can do it.
There's
or
another
I can,
door unlocked.
There's another door, but it is so true of like, and I tell my kids this all the time, like you've got to celebrate the victories that you get. Like you've got to take, even if it's just a day or even if it's whatever, but like you've got to take a step back and be like, dang, I did it. And even if it's something that like you talk about all the time, or it's like to you it's not that important, like it's a very standard skill or a standard thing that you do routine, like still celebrate that. Me getting a great pass off of a really hard serve, like yeah, I should be doing that, but like I did it.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Be excited about it.
and feeling excited about it, feeling satisfied, feeling accomplished does not mean you aren't reaching or looking towards the next goal. Like they can coexist,
Both can exist at
right?
the same time.
Like
It's not either or.
right. It's not like I can't be happy or satisfied with what I just accomplished with this PR because I need to be doing better. Or I need to reach my next goal. Like be in the present moment.
Yeah.
Be happy. Be satisfied. Feel accomplished. Next day of practice. What am I aiming towards next? What's my next goal?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
All the
it's
time,
the
all
difference.
place.
And I know we always talk about this, and it's a big tip that we even give to parents. You know, when your athlete comes off the court, the field, the track, whatever it is, and they did not perform well, and they're not feeling confident in their abilities, they don't believe that they're ever going to rebound from this, right? Our first instinct is to go to everything that I did wrong, or everything I should have done, or all of the, you know, the negative what ifs, or what's next, and what do I have to change, and what do I have to do?
Should have done this.
Should have done this, could have done this, right? And we always say to our athletes, and I think it's a really important thing for parents to know too, that there's always a positive.
Yes.
There's
Always.
always a positive, right?
Always.
Maybe it was there
You
was
showed up that day.
right, and you put on, right? You literally
went to
got
practice.
yourself out of bed to go to practice, right? And I think like that is such a great way to continue to build confidence and to always bring it back to confidence is what are the two things that I know I did well today?
Right.
Or that I believe fully that I felt confident in that moment, right? You can get into all the negatives. You can go down that path for hours probably, but before you do that, what are the two good things? What are two things that I can
And
hang my
even-
hat on that I felt good in today?
Yeah, and even if like, say you like didn't play at all, yeah, it's like, yeah, I showed up today, or what other roles do you have on that team? I was a good teammate today. Like
Yeah.
when someone came off the field and they were down on themselves, I gave them positive feedback. So when they went out there, like they
Like, I
killed
fed
it.
into their source of
right,
confidence,
Yeah, like
yeah.
that's something like that's another side of being an athlete and being a teammate is being supportive of the people on your team. Like
May not feel the same as like when you get a great
Right.
PR or a great kill or whatever, score a goal, but it's still doing something for you, and
Yes.
you've got to give it the time of day. You've got to give it the credit. No, this is awesome, guys. I mean,
We could literally just sit
we
here
could
and
talk about
talk
this
for
for
hours.
hours. It's
Forever,
awesome,
yeah.
which I think is just a testament to our passions and our backgrounds. So again, I'm so excited we're doing this, and I'm so excited to kind of embark down the path of future topics.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I think that's kind of probably end it here today, just in case I don't want to go down any more tangents.
I was gonna say we
For-
could tangent
so much more to talk
all
about.
day long.
So thank you guys so much for listening today. I know if you guys have any questions or any thoughts, feel free to comment below or comment in our section of whatever it's going to look like. I don't exactly know yet, but and also feel free to give us a like and follow on our Sharpen Skills training pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok.
Yes.
All of them.
All
lot
of
of
the things. Literally pick one.
But awesome. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.